Come get your first look at the brand new Genestealer Cult Wave 2 releases for Warhammer 40k. Spiky bits.
Make sure you stay in the trenches by becoming a supporter over on Patreon and also scoring yourself some free miniature swag in the process. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Check out our site, spikybits.com, for all the hot hobby tutorials, news, rumors on all your favorite hobby topics. And head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.
Alright, Hobby Maniacs, well, it's week 2 and we got Genestealer Cults. Man, this is pretty exciting. I'm Baer and we are going to work our way through these 4 releases here. Plus, we've got some other videos coming this weekend as well on the new Space Marine Strike Force Ultima, which is a great army deal there as well. And the brand new Battle Mat City Ruin for your games of Warhammer 40k as well. So let's jump right into this, because some of these are going to be easy, but some of these I really want to showcase, like the things like the Goliath here. Now, I'll be honest, I think the Emperor said it best. You can either be all-knowing or all-powerful. You can't be both at the same time. And I feel like I kind of overlooked something here with basically what comes in this box. Like, I was like, oh, it's just an upgrade sprue, but it turns out they actually snuck in a heavy weapon team into this box too. And I just noticed it. I was like, holy cow, that actually makes sense. All right, I am down. I am behind this. So let's zoom in on this bad boy here, because this is a kind of a pretty neat deal. Now, we had seen the upgrade sprue thing for a while. We saw it with Death Watch. A lot of the Death Watch releases came out, and really I think it was only like 4 were actually new, where everything else was just like, hey, here's an upgrade sprue. Make your termies this, make your whatever this. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty neat. I'm definitely behind that, but for the Genestealers, they're doing the same exact thing again, right? So that's kind of cool to see, I guess. Like, when you get the ability to upgrade your existing guardsmen or anything you might have in the box sitting in the corner, well, now you really only have to buy, the stuff like the Brood Coven or the Goliaths or the hybrids or something like that. But for the folks that might not have any of that, there's a great, starting point right here, I feel like, which is really cool to see. So price point wise, this goes for $45. The Kdeeny shock troops are normally a $29 value, and then if you kick it over to the heavy weapon, that's a $16 value. So going off of the base price of MSRP just for those 2 sets without the upgrade sprue, which we've seen them sell the Space Marine upgrade sprue separately in 2014 for, I think it was like 14, 15 bucks, it seems like a good deal. You're basically paying for those and you're getting the upgrade sprue for free. Air quotes free. So the new bundle definitely seems to be the way of life at Games Workshop. Now, once you start taking a closer look here, of course, you get the alternate heads. If you haven't seen the upgrade sprue, we're going to show it to you here in a second. And then the heavy weapon team, which can be made into any 4 of those heavy weapons right there. I think that's actually everything that's available for heavy weapons, of course. So jumping over to here, of course, you get that Kdeeny shock troop instructions, because that's what it is, Kdeeny heavy weapon team instructions, because let's face it, that's what they are. And then right here is the instruction manual for the upgrade sprues themselves. So here you go. This is how it works. It basically comes with some icons that you can put on vehicles, and these little accessory bags right here that also have a little Tyranny Cult icon as well. And then same deal, Tyranny Cult icon and a little knife or sheathed weapon blade of some kind. And then there's the actual sprue itself, which you can see there has multiple heads. It looks like 12 different heads. And then you've got the knives, the upgrade knives themselves, and then the upgrade little packs right there, and the vehicle medallion icons with the flat back. So that's pretty neat to see. So that can do some work there. Of course, you got the Kdeeny shock troopers. I actually don't think we've ever reviewed these, because these came out in 2005, but this is basically 2 identical sprues of dudes with legs, and then 2 identical sprues of lasgun arms here. You can tell these were done by hand, sculpted by hand in the past, and everything was very rudimentary. Now they have computers, everything's much more jumbled on the sprue, so who knows, we might actually get a better looking sprue of those in say the next 10 years or so. Here's the heavy weapon sprue, again, an older version, done by hand, not by computer, but still very well designed and a staple of many, many, many armies out there. Of course, you get the bases, everything you need there comes with it. And then, of course, the upgrade sprue itself, which, boom, you can't really see the faces there. Actually, let's zoom in a little bit, and we will get you what you need to see. There we go. Okay. So now you can see you've got all the little knives and everything like that. There's the heads, and flip it over and you can see a little bit better detail on the actual, like, all the little glasses and everything like that, and then the Tyranid medallions right up in there. And then you got a couple of, what are those, like sergeant upgrade heads right there. So it looks like a total of 14 different heads, which is pretty neat for a kit of this size. So like I said, we could see in the future where they just sell the upgrade sprues, like Deathwatch upgrade sprues, Genestealer Cult upgrade sprues. But, you know, for now, they're not going to do that. Let's be honest. This is a business decision. Like, they don't have to. They need to get their money back off of their basically initial investment and initial release. Maybe a year down the road, we'll see a separate release of this with, like, say, a second edition book, or, you know, maybe a board game that comes out that's related. So they always have these things just kind of sitting on the shelf ready to get released with something else, you know, and kind of bundle it together in a kind of release wave, or to use this to augment something else. Because who knows? I mean, they could always come in and say, oh, now you can take Bane Blades or something like that, and boom, guess what? You get this little sprue. So this little sprue basically saves their bacon. You know, it's just like having something there ready to go that you don't necessarily have to sell by itself, but you can if you need to, you know what I mean? So I like it. I like the concept from Games Workshop there. Let's jump to the Brood Coven next. Okay, so here's the Brood Coven box. This is $60 retail, and literally all it is the models out of the Deathwatch Overkill box. So now we touched on this briefly when we were talking about, hey, it might be a little bit more better value now for the Deathwatch Overkill box, because not only do you get those 11 Deathwatch Marines, but you also get all the other Tyranid Cult models. You get the 4 Aberrants, you get the 2 Pure Strain Genestealers, you get, 20 of the Acolytes, and then 10 of the Hybrids, right? So that's a pretty neat value, plus you get these. So this goes for $60. The Marines themselves go for $65 retail. So I wonder, in the scheme of things there, how much technically the rest of the Genestealer Cult models are worth. You know what I'm saying? So that box seems pretty solid value now that we're seeing stuff like this coming out. Now, of course, those models, the Aberrants and the Hybrids and the Neophytes, they are all on 2 sprues put together, and then there's this sprue that goes on top, which I'm going to show you right here. Now, this is currently the only way to get these HQ characters. I guess you could use a Broodlord, separate Broodlord as a Patriarch, but there really isn't a Magus model or a Genestealer Primus model, to be honest. So that's really interesting that Games Workshop, basically you have 4 HQ choices in the book. The other one, of course, is what we're going to show you here, the Icon dude here, the Acolyte Icon Ward. But now you have to, say you only want the Broodlord guy, the Patriarch, well, now you have to spend $60 to buy it. Now, granted, if you start breaking down, hey, normally clan packs go for like $30, this might be air quotes of value based off that, because technically you get 3 models for 20 plus some familiars. But I'm sure all the folks out there now building a Genestealer Cult army don't want to hear that. They're like, wait, I gotta buy all these squads, and now I gotta spend $60 on a 3 HQ pack. I don't know how I feel about that, but it is what it is. It's how it came out. This sprue is copyright 2015, so maybe they didn't have this codex in mind. We know that the new Blood Bowl game that's coming out only took them 9 months to develop, from earlier this year to now, basically, right? Because they had the box just for showcasing at Gamma and Las Vegas in the summer. So that was just basically like, hey, here's the box, but they didn't really have anything inside of it. So it's interesting to see that maybe their release compass is kind of shifted, and they're like, well, we spent the money on this, let's put it out. I don't know what to say. I could say that yes, you can make the argument that it is a bit of a value, but the fact that you gotta buy all three together and you can't buy the dudes separate is kind of a hindrance, I'm sure, to a lot of players. But that's just full disclosure there. Still great looking models. You know, basically done on the computer, everything kind of slices together. And let's talk about this. I talked about it when the box came out, the Overkill box, or came out itself. You know, something about the way they put these models together is they hide because I had to put some of these models together, or the way they designed them, is they hide the mold lines, basically. So it's very hard to see the mold lines. A lot of times you don't even have to clean them because all of this stuff is like underneath. Like if you look at the Patriarch here, like you'll notice that there isn't going to be a mold line for the leg right here, right? Because the leg slots into the socket up here. This might be a mold line if you get a bag cast, but again, if you have to, you know, shave down some of this, it isn't going to show off as much as, you know, sometimes some of the other stuff. So they seem to be kind of hiding these mold lines a little bit better, like especially right here, how this guy goes together. You see a lot with Age of Sigmar stuff, and now we're starting to see it with independent character type models here. So like I said, the box set, $60 US. You can make the argument either way, that it's either a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just giving you the information as I see it and commenting on, you know, some of the trends that I may see out there, I guess, and kind of the way things tend to be going. And then of course we've got the Acolyte Command, or which is, the Icon Ward, which seems to be a pretty neat looking model. Let's see if we can zoom in on this bad boy here. So this guy basically has this separate banner, which is neat. It's always cool to see multi-partness when it comes to these guys. So it's kind of two-part, like the banner itself is separate, so you could use it for something else. And then the banner arm's separate, the head is separate, but again, the body is that two-slice kind of less kind of flash type construction, you know what I mean? I like to think of, just call it slices. That seems to be their thing there. Now let's get to the Goliath, because man, this thing has been like super anticipated by a lot of people, and I'm really digging the fact that it's here. Now, don't get me wrong, when I played Orcs, and they came out with a battle wagon for the first time, I was super stoked. I was like, man, this battle wagon is gonna be awesome. I got it, I put it together, and I literally almost wanted to throw it against the wall because I was so disappointed it was so small. Like, you're so used to seeing battle wagons, they're like big. So immediately I took it, I was like, man, F this. And I bought two more, and I kit bashed them together to make a battle wagon that ended up being like this big. And then I kit bashed a dozer blade because they didn't have a dozer blade bit for it at the time either. But now we're getting stuff that comes with everything inside of it all at once. But once you see this model, you're going to be like, okay, now that's something to think about. So obviously, it makes to the two different kits, the truck, aka the limo, or the rock crusher itself, which is depicted right here, okay? Now, it's got a couple of different ways you can, configure it, which you could configure it differently in the rear, depending, if you wanted to make the rock grinder, but you wanted to give it the rear of, the truck, you could. There's nothing stopping you. You just need the weapon mount area right there, which is a little bit different on the rock crusher. So there's some of the features. It's got the heavy versions of those mining weapons, and of course the clearance incinerator, which is just a heavy flamer that's torrent, which still is pretty good on a vehicle. Let me tell you what, everybody in guard generally takes their tanks with flamers. Well, imagine if it was a heavy flamer with torrent. That would be pretty bananas, I feel like. So let's jump into this one. So like I said, this is a $60 retail kit that's, has multiple purposes. It can be dedicated, or it can just be a normal thing. It's a 2 sprue kit with no accessories, no decals, no nothing, just 2 sprues, boom. Let's take a look at the instruction manual just to get an idea of everything before we run down the sprues themselves. So here's basically, you don't have to decide yet what kit you're gonna do. It's just basically a shell kind of assembly, and then you have to make some decisions later on based on which way you're gonna go with it. So you can see here, very well detailed. They got the interior detail because this might get covered up, this might not get covered up. So they put a little diamond plate in there, which is really neat. Sides all go together as to be expected. Of course, this is a lot more, I guess, thorough or complicated than a Rhino was, but of course, Rhino was designed by hand, and 2000, the current plastic one. So I could see a little separation of technologies and design philosophies, etc. here. So there's all the extras, basically putting on the stacks, putting on the little rails and things like that, no big deal. And then it does come with the crewmen that we saw. A lot of people were like, no, it doesn't come with crew. Well, it does come with crew, which is kind of neat. The Torox didn't come with crew, but some of the Dark Eldar stuff comes with crew. So it was cool to see that they threw it in here, a couple extra guys here and there. So basically here's to put the gunner on it if you want to go with the gunner, and that's kind of neat. And then some more stuff here. They got the external fuel tanks, and then basically the back is just like a big pickup truck kind of bed. Now then it goes into more specific, like if you want to do the rock grinder, there's one mount for all of the weapons, which is kind of cool because you can magnetize the ends and just slap them on there if you really wanted to and weren't sure what you were going to take. You could definitely do that. But there is only one of these part 117, so one's going to have it, one isn't. Don't have to worry about it for the clearance incinerator. So there's how to get the prowl together. Pretty easy, just lots of discs glued together and then put in there. And that's pretty interesting to see, and then it forms the big, kind of assembly there. Then we get into more specifics. If you're doing the rock grinder, you put the enclosed bed right on top, which I kind of dig, and then there's a little ladder on the back to get you up, very similar to the Baneblade one. And then I like how the axles kind of work with these wheels here, because that really leaves some stuff open for conversion potential, or you could even use these wheels on Toroxes and bring the Turok stuff over here if you could find a way to extend it or kind of cut this off and maybe just make that a half track in general. I don't know. But it's something to take note of. So there's the final assembly, and then it gets into your little quick reference card that you could cut out and put on the tabletop. And then it gets into the actual truck, where you just basically put a bunch more rails on there, and the weapon right here, and then all the little crew dudes that kind of hang off, like I said. So overall, it's a pretty groundbreaking kit. Very cool stuff here, and there's probably a lot of Genestealer players out there that are going to need multiple copies of this kit. So like I said, it's just a 2 sprue kit. It looks very similar to a lot of guard vehicles out there, I guess, because you got all your wheels, but it looks like the old guard vehicles of back in the day, where you had to make the axle, and then you had to put the axle into the fuselage, or the bulkhead, and then you had to glue the other bulkhead in, and then you had to put the tracks around it. And they got away from that in the past few years, but that's when I glance down at that, I have flashbacks to just spending hours just building the freaking treads on Chimeras and Lehman Russes. Man, let me tell you what, oof, those were the days that we don't like to remember here at Spiky Bits. But we got it easy nowadays. There's computers and stuff, and they make our lives easier. Hooray! So that's the sprue. So let's take a closer look at this one here. Like I said, internal inside detail, little diamond plating right there. This is the superstructure. Now, if you're looking at it, you're like, wait a minute, this is kind of small. This is going to be about the size of a Rhino once you get it together, because you can tell by the size. It's going to be bigger than a Torox, but it's definitely going to be about Rhino size once you put the dozer blade on it, more like a Vindicator kind of size. So not exactly the ginormous vehicle a lot of people were just kind of assuming it was, myself included. But it's still cool nonetheless, you know what I mean? Plus it gives you a little less of a footprint on the tabletop, because if you're trying to take a bunch of these rock grinders and just kind of smash into people with them, well, they won't take up as much space on your battle line, and doing things. It's a lot easier to hide these guys, to get block line of sight, or get hull down, or get obscured these days. But, there's a lot of tactics involved in all that. So here's the rock grinder back end that goes, this actually sticks out forward. And then you got your 2 halves right there at the top of the vehicle, depending on which version you make. And there's the front, and you've got the plate that goes on the back depending on which vehicle version you make. Some of the tips for the weapon, that looks to be the clearance accelerator, or clearance incinerator. I don't know why I want to say accelerator. There's the front of the dozer blade, where all the stacks of all the little discs go in, and then you've got the little mini disc as well. And it's actually cantered. It's plowed, which was really hard to see in the pictures. I didn't notice it was that actually cantered back. And what I like about it too is, if you want to do hazard strikes on it, it's kind of already got the lines in there for you to basically, trace and do up, which I thought was kind of neat. And then here's the crew and weapon sprue. Very cool stuff here. So you can see all of the little blades for the dozer, the sets of wheels as well. Then you've got some of the crew, the mount for the weapons, the little stubber, the truck weapon as well. All your rails and everything, they're very delicate. Make sure you are careful when you put those on. And then you got the stacks for the back, the radiator for the front. Gotta have the radiator, gotta be going. And more barrels and tips and things like that. So very cool looking kit. I can't wait. I kind of want to keep it and put it together. I won't lie, but then what do I need it for? I don't have a Genestealer Cult army. But I tell you what, you can definitely make the argument that you could play Genestealer Cult. You could play Harlequins with Genestealer Cult rules, and minus some of the like clunky Imperial weaponry. And they would actually probably work quite well. You would just say they're basically bouncing into the webway and then bouncing back out of the webway. I'm actually surprised we didn't get a set of rules similar to that from them, because that seems like that would be pretty fun. I'm sure a lot of Tyrannid or Harlequin players, because let's face it, Harlequins are not at face value very competitive, but they're a fan favorite kind of army, and they're definitely a hobby love army, doing all those checks and hash and diamonds and striping and everything like that. So if you gave them some alternate rules, or just went by these rules here, that might be pretty neat. I feel like I think you can make an argument for it. A little hobby love there. So that's it for this one. Like I said, we got 2 other great videos coming this weekend with the new army box, of course, the City Ruin playmat that's coming out as well. So make sure you check those out on the channels. If you have any errors or omissions, please leave them in the comments below, and we will get to them as soon as we see them.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. TheLongWar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.